Hello and welcome or welcome back to the Rosevere YouTube channel. I'm here with Adam.
Hello.
We thought it would be a good idea to talk about the Darjeeling collection that we have because it's pretty extensive.
Yeah,
And I know it's a type of tea that you are a particular fan of.
I drink it a lot.
And I'm mostly a green and herbal tea drinker, so I thought it was important to have somebody who knows what they're talking about when it comes to this kind of thing. I do love them. I just find myself drawn to the seaweed flavors, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so today we wanted to talk about our Darjeelings, and I thought I would sort of quiz Adam for everyone
Okay.
in terms of like what people might not know about these teas, things that they might be wondering before they try, which one should they start with, that kind of thing. I mean, when there's so many, it's quite hard to know like which one to go for first.
Yes, yes.
So let's get into it. Let's quiz you. So which one do you drink the most of ours?
Now, the one I drink the most with Isabel is the Ballast Darjeeling. It's a second flush, so it's one that is quite. So the second flush happens in June. It's quite a strong Darjeeling. Darjeelings can be quite light and flowery. They're first flushes. And it's got this incredible white wine sweetness, what we call in the trade a muscatel sweetness. A little bit of fruitiness as well, and just a wonderful tea. I drink it black, but many of our customers put a little bit of milk, and it's strong enough to take a bit of milk if you put milk with your tea.
Yeah, and actually a lot of the Darjeelings work well with a bit of lemon as well.
Yes.
I think that tends to be a popular addition. So you did say that your favourite is the second flush.
Yes.
Some of our viewers may not be aware of what a flush is. So I thought maybe you could
So a flush is a growing season, and you've got your first growing season. Well, let's start before the first growing season. Let's picture where we are. We're in Darjeeling in the Himalayas. What do we know about the Himalayas? We've got Mount Everest and the neighboring country, Nepal. We've got those very high mountains, got very cold winters. Nothing is growing in the winter. So, and during the winter, the nutrients, which you can equate to flavor, are building up in the roots. And that first flavor is going into the first harvest. And the first harvest is termed the first flush. And that first flush is very sought after. And also some first flush can get to be quite expensive when they're extremely good. And they're quite flowery and also very individual. So, and each year they're a little bit different or a lot different. So each time the time comes to have first flushes, it's a very important moment for Isabel and I to be trying the teas to work out which ones we're going to have this year.
And which months is that, the first flush?
So first flush is March and April.
Okay, and then your Balasan favourite is second flush.
That's a second flush, and that's a June harvest.
Yeah.
Now the June harvest, we're in the good weather. The leaves are growing normally. The flavour is stronger, and you've got those, as I mentioned, those wonderful muscatel notes.
And then you were telling me earlier about a new tea that we're going to have, which is very exciting. And I wasn't really aware that it kind of went past first and second flush.
You know, we've only had first and second flushes for the last 10 years, but we've actually got a new flush, which is an autumnal flush. So let's go back to the flushes. So after the second flush, you've then got a monsoon flush in September, and that's not as good. It's during the monsoon, lots of rain obviously, and the leaves grow very fast, and there's not so much flavour in the leaves. Once the monsoons are over and you're heading into October, November, you've then got your autumnal flush, and this is a very interesting tea. Stronger than a second flush, woodier. The colour of the tea is darker. Wonderful dark copper colour, woody notes, nutty notes, and as Ella said, it's will be on the shelves in the next few days, and it's a new tea for us. So
Yeah.
autumnal flush.
So exciting. I know lots of people have come in and tried pretty much all of our Darjeelings, maybe all of the black teas. I think a lot of our customers have been sort of tasting them all for a long time, and so it's quite exciting when a new option comes in for them to give it a go. I'm excited to try it as well. I haven't seen it yet, so I'm waiting with bated breath. We actually had a customer to thank for getting it in, didn't we?
We did, and as a customer who came into 2 of our shops looking for an autumnal flush, he'd had it somewhere and thought, that's my tea. And the first shop he came into, we said no, we don't have it. And then he came into the Broughton Street shop, and I happened to be there, and I spoke to him a lot about it. I learned a lot from him, actually. Very, very grateful for that conversation. After that, looked for autumnal flushes in different gardens, and I found this one, and it's great. So really useful conversation with that customer.
Yeah, well, I hope they're watching. It'd be nice for them to know that we've got
now
it
in stock.
Yeah. Brilliant. So should we maybe talk about a few of the specifics? We've mentioned Balasan, but Margaret's Hope, possibly?
Margaret's Hope is the most popular tea in Darjeeling that we've got. It's a very famous garden. Bit of a sad story about why it's called Margaret's Hope. The plantation owner had a daughter called Margaret who loved that area in Darjeeling, and she sadly died on the boat back to the UK, and then that garden was named Margaret's Hope after that. So we've got 2 teas from that garden. The second flush that I've already mentioned, that is I think the customer favourite of all our Darjeelings, but also a first flush, which is not just a Margaret's Hope first flush taken from the whole garden, but it's taken from just the best parts of the garden, which are the Maharani Hills. So that is a wonderful first flush. And in fact, there we have a customer whose family used to own that part of the garden, and she's writing a book on that.
Oh wow, exciting! Yeah, I love the Maharani Hills one. Actually, it's very light and
flowery.
Yeah, really good. And then we've got 2 Happy Valley Darjeelings. One is an oolong, and I wondered if you'd tell us a bit about that. But it's old estate.
Well, it's. You're right, it is an old estate. It's a garden that's closest to Darjeeling village. So if you've been to Darjeeling and visited a tea garden, could well be the Happy Valley Tea Garden, as it's the one that's closest. It's a fascinating from the point of view of the tastes of the tea that come from that garden. Because we've had first flushes in the past, and currently we've got a second flush, which is a second flush black tea, but we've also got an oolong, which is a second flush from the point of view of when the harvest took place, but it's been processed as an oolong. And if you try the 2 teas side by side, they are different, but both are delicious. So it's fascinating to see the differences that the expertise of the tea processor can make in the taste.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I think the oolong teas are all really sort of unique and special, and it's it's really cool to think that the same estate can be making 2 very distinct
and from
flavors.
The same time period as well, because they're using second flush leaves but processing it as an oolong.
Oh wow, yeah. So now that we've got a general gist of what the flushes are, do you have would you have a recommendation if somebody comes in and says, I want to try a first flush tea? What's your favourite?
My favourite first flush is actually not from Darjeeling. It's from just over the border in Dankuta in Nepal. It's the highest tea estate in the world. It's 2,000 meters high. I've been drinking this tea for 20 years. It's just fabulous tea. And in fact, there's never been a bad harvest for me. There's slight variations, but it's good every single year. It's got very, very distinctive, the notes you expect from a first flush Darjeeling, but very strong, but very pronounced notes. So very flowery. There's that kind of element of spice you get in a first flush as well. It's so hard to define because the words we use tend to confuse rather than show us what we actually mean.
Yeah, sometimes you say that it's got a spice note and people think that it's got cardamom in it, and it's
Exactly.
like, no, that's not what we mean.
It's not the cardamom you're thinking of.
No.
Or there's an aspect of cinnamon there, but it's not like cinnamon you'd put with apple or cinnamon you might put in your porridge or the sweet cinnamon. It's
like the root
it's
kind of
some
thing.
aspect of it, something that is reminding, because when you're there working out the taste notes, you're saying that there is a taste there I recognize, and then you're trying to put a word on it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think you gave us the actual name of your favourite.
My favourite, I'm sorry. So it's a Guernsey tea estate. So it's a first flush Guernsey. It's a March harvest. It's a great garden, actually. They do summer harvests, and I do try those sometimes. So far, I've not ever liked it as much as the first flush. And of course, they do a green tea.
Yes, I knew which farm you were talking about because the Guernsey Emerald is one of my absolute favourites. It's so hard to pin down how it tastes.
It's really hard to pin down. I remember writing that one up for the website probably 8 or 9 years ago, and drinking pot after pot of it to try and discern what the taste notes are. I think I came up with plum.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's one of those ones. I'd say it's like very velvety.
And it's so different to either Chinese or Japanese or Korean. It's there on its own. It's a unique one, actually.
Yeah, and people are shocked as well when they find that Nepal even makes green tea or that sort of thing. It's quite very unique. But obviously the Guernsey, I'm looking over at the shelves, sorry. The Guernsey black tea is obviously a big hit as well.
That is, yeah. We've had years where people come in and they buy all of our first flush teas to see what they're like, because as I said, the first flushes are very individual. So sometimes you'll have a big winner. Say Castleton might be absolutely fabulous one year, and then just a relatively ordinary the following year. You've got to try it to find out. So people who come in and try all of the first flushes, and if they then come back afterwards and say, well, that was my favourite and I now want several bags of that one, it's almost always Guernsey. Yeah. Almost always.
Yeah, it's a strong choice. I loved the Castleton last year or 2 years ago maybe. The harvest was absolutely incredible. I remember drinking it for the first time and thinking it felt like I was drinking like really delicious warm white wine. Like it was such a muscatel tea.
It was a really strange one, because you don't normally get those muscatel notes so much in a first flush, actually.
No, it was impressive.
Isabel and I were umdanad a little bit before buying that one. We thought, is it actually in its category? But it was so delicious we had to have it.
Yeah, it was incredible and sold really well. We were down to our last bag or two in Clark Street, I think.
Yeah, only Clark Street.
I think it's just us that have got it now. So yeah, if people are wanting to try the white wine flavour of Castleton, then you've got to run, because there's one bag left. So thank you for watching this video. I hope that you learned something. And maybe you'll come in and try the Darjeelings. Just to mention, we do serve teas. We have a table here for a reason. So if you're ever in the Edinburgh area, if you're a local, we do have a small cafe, a very
very small,
minimal cafe at the back of Clark Street here. So if you're ever wanting to come and try one of the lovely Darjeelings, then you can have a pot here. But yeah, keep an eye out for more of our videos coming soon. Thank you very much for watching.
We'll see you next time.